Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to introduce you today to Lauren from Yogi Beans. So excited to have you here, Lauren. Now, I've heard about you from a number of our colleagues, so I'm really excited to sit down and actually get to know your work and your journey and everything. So I hear you're in the New York area, so you're on the East Coast like I am too. So I'd love to hear your background, your passion, your work, and what are you up to these days with Yoga Beans?
Yes. Well, first, thank you for having me. I'm excited to speak to you as well. We know a lot of
Yes.
similar people, so it's great to connect. So I started Yogi Beans a really long time ago now in 2007. So I feel like I'm kind of like an OG. I've been doing
Yes.
this. I've been
Right.
doing this for a really long time. Kind of when people are like, "Kids yoga," like, either turning their nose up at it or being like, "That's a gimmick," or "Kids can't do yoga." That's when I started, when there really wasn't a huge community.
We're
Um,
Lauren, we're starting to call ourselves the grandma yogis. I guess
yeah, I
a few
guess
people,
I feel like an
which is
elder.
right.
Yeah, yeah, I really do. So I started in 2007. My background, I was a theater major and I got into the world. Well, I was a theater major, I was acting, and I kind of had this aha moment where I didn't want to waitress and bartend, so I started teaching Pilates. That's how I got into fitness. And then after I got my Pilates certification, I got my yoga certification. And even while I was doing the yoga certification, I kind of had this like, I really want to work with kids. I did a lot of children's theater in college. I was a nanny, and just seeing how a lot of my Pilates clients had children, and they would tell me these things like, "Oh, my child is, interviewing for their preschool." I had
Right,
never heard of that before. I
right.
couldn't believe it. I'm like, what is a do they color in the lines? Like, what are you interviewing a 4-year-old
Mhm.
for? And just realizing how stressed some of their kids were really was the impetus. I was living in New York City at the time, for me to start Yogi Beans. And it all happened very organically. I was kind of coming out of, I'm not going to act anymore. Maybe I'm going to I was teaching yoga and Pilates to grown-ups, and it sprouted and took on a life of its own.
Literally the beans. I love it. So
Yeah, yeah.
what our conversation today is what I was looking at your website. I love the way that you've taken all of that background. You've got your Pilates, your yoga, your kids yoga, teaching forever, and you've put it into schools as well. So not just kids yoga classes, but into schools. And what I'm really
Yeah.
interested in is these large group assemblies that
Mm,
you're offering, because that
yes.
has got to be a skill. And the fact that you said you have a theater background, I kind of think, whoa, because I'm a trained teacher. To me, the thought of being in a room full of all different grades in a huge space presenting kind of makes me, I don't know, wildly nervous. So I'd love to hear, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, right? But with your theater background, I'm hoping that you can give us a few tips,
Yes, for
right?
sure. Yes,
Yeah.
and,
So,
something too I think is really important, like, some people may not wanna do large group assemblies. There is a bit of performance in it, and, you have to project, and so it might not be for everyone. However, if it is something that you wanna venture into, I am happy to share tips and, best practices for how to do that.
right. Well, actually, in that, Lauren, let's think about the spectrum, right? So let's think about our audience who might be listening to this thinking, I just want to learn how to do large groups. So it might be after school, clubs where you've got like 30, 40, 50 children of different ages, all the way through to a whole school or a whole like K-3 or 3 to 5 or something like that.
Mhm,
So let's
mhm.
think about this and that broader spectrum. I'm glad you brought that up. So what have you noticed are sort of like the benefits of working with a larger group? And so instead of your small group classes, what do you see is an opportunity to work with a larger group?
Well, I think children just innately get very excited when there's any sort of, if we're talking about large group assemblies, they get excited when there's someone special coming to school, right? It's a break in the school day, it's something novel. So you already have that excited energy of like, "Ooh, we're doing something different. Why are we going to the gym during, science class?" So the kids are already a little they're excited. They are usually want to participate because they're getting out of class, right? So it's not, you often in these large group assemblies, you don't get kids that are begrudgingly not wanting to participate. They're excited to be there. It's something different and novel for the school day. Typically, when I do large group assemblies, and for those of you that are interested in doing them, they are broken up by grades. And I always suggest that. So if you're teaching at a school that has pre-K to fifth, don't put the pre-K and fifth graders together. I've had to do that once or twice just because of timing, but it's not ideal. You want to have the pre-K and the kindergartners first and second. So keep that lower elementary together.
Yeah.
And then third, fourth, and if you can, maybe fifth, because they're starting to become more tween-like on their own. This is also contingent on the size of the gym or the assembly room that you're doing, the lessons in. Sometimes they can only group one grade at a time. But I think that's really important to try and keep the ages close together. So you don't end up working with like a 5-year-old and an 11-year-old because they're different.
Oh yeah, that makes total sense. So I'm teaching as a substitute, and so I know what you said there is so true. When you see on our schedule that we've got a special, we had like a musicians come the other week, a jazz musicians,
Oh, nice.
and you're right. It's like this excitement. You're absolutely right. This novel is exciting. The teachers get a few minutes break, so that would definitely be a benefit.
Everyone loves it. Yes.
Right? Yeah.
So
just for the teachers.
You're going in and everyone kind of wants to be there. So you're starting off with this positive energy of like, oh, this is something different. Who's the special guest for today? What are we going to do? So that's great because you're coming into, people are receptive to you.
But I think on the other side of that too, Lauren, I definitely see some children, maybe kind of our out of the box children, are children who might be a bit more dysregulated in that kind of environment. Do you notice that as well, that you have some kiddos that are just a little
if
timid
you're going
or shy?
Yes. And if you're going to teach a large group assembly, you need to organize it with the school and make sure that the teachers stay present with the children. When you're teaching these large groups, in full transparency, there's not a lot of one-on-one. It's not, that's why I said it's presentational. It is a bit of performance, so you're really not, maybe, you ask a question, one or two kids raise their hands and you kind of call from the audience, like a talk show host, pick someone from the crowd, but you don't have the time, for one-on-one engagement. That's why it's so important that the teachers stay present. And sometimes you can even ask the PTA to have some parent volunteers. So that way, if a child is getting dysregulated, the teacher can attend to the child because you're leading a huge group. It's not, you can't really stop the assembly to attend to a one-on-one situation, if that makes sense.
Oh, that totally makes sense. So what would you say if you were to speak to a group, say there was a group of yoga teachers here, what would you say are sort of the 3 top tips on how do you put together an effective, engaging, interactive? Because I've also been to some performances or some hosts, people that come in that they're quite boring, honestly.
Yes,
children are not engaged. So how do you create that engagement with children?
Great question. I'm going to, even if it's okay, I want to even start further. How do you get into the school? Because I think a lot of people might not even so wherever you are, if you're listening to this, you're going to Google your school district, right? So in order to come into these assemblies, you usually have to be a vendor with your school district, meaning you'll have to sign up. Yogi Beans is a DOE vendor. Yogi Beans is a BOCES vendor. BOCES is in Long Island. DOE is in New York City. That's where we primarily hold our in-person experiences. And, you need to be a vendor first because the schools all have budgets, and then they're looking at the supplied list of vendors. So that's the first thing you want to do if you're like, oh, I really want to do these assemblies, and they're great and they're financially lucrative. It's a wonderful thing. They're a ton of fun. First, though, you need to become a vendor with your district. So that's number one. And then it's really important that once, if someone reaches out to you, you ask about how many grades are participating. You encourage them to break it up. Pre-K to K, first to second, right? You don't want to be teaching middle schoolers and kindergartners. It's just, like I said, 2 totally different things. The other thing that's super important is you want to ask them, do you have a microphone and a Bluetooth? So you can, we have mics, however, they're not as powerful for like a huge gymnasium, and the gym teachers usually have them. So you want to make sure that your voice can be amplified. Either you bring your own, like a headset, or you ask the gym teachers if they have a mic that you can use. And you want to make sure that your music, right? You don't want to, for smaller after school classes, we all have our portable little speakers and those work great. However, when you're teaching in a huge gymnasium and the sound echoes, you want to be connected to the school's sound system. So that's really important because that's going to help with engagement. They're going to be able to hear you, right? And you don't have to, I did the last assembly, I did the mic, actually, it was broken. And I think it was really hard because I was starting to lose my voice. And then right when the assembly ended, even the gym teacher, he's like, it's going to come on right when you ended. Sure enough, it came on. But I was like, oh my goodness, thank God it's only 3 classes and not a whole day,
Right.
because I couldn't, my voice was going. So it's
Mhm.
really important that you have the right sound equipment.
Mhm.
That's super important. And then in terms of activities that you want to do, you want to think of large group activities, right? Nothing that's going to involve taking turns, things that everyone can do at the same time. Use music. Music is such a portal to get kids engaged. So I highly recommend, you incorporate music into the assembly, and you want kind of ageless activities, because even if you're working
Mhm.
with 2 grades, you're going to have children at all different levels, right? So
Right.
you don't want to, don't break out a crow pose. Don't do
Right.
something like that. Keep it fairly simple, I
Mm.
would say.
Yeah. Oh, that totally makes sense. What a beautiful experience. Do you do themes as well, or how do you kind of
Yeah.
structure?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's structured similar to how we
Mhm.
structure our class. I always think a good recipe for kids yoga, right? You got to have your pranayama, your breath work, your asana and poses, and then
Mhm.
meditation and mindfulness, right? You're really, oftentimes these assemblies are going to align with the time in like a class period, right? So and they're usually like, right, you're a teacher, it's usually like 43 minutes or something. By the
Right.
time the kids all get into the space, by the time that they're set up, another thing that's very helpful is you can either set up the children in rows or around like the perimeter of the gym. And you could use, usually most school gyms have like basketball courts and lines on the floor. Set them
Mhm.
up around the perimeter or in rows, but that takes time. So your
Right.
actual teaching,
Yeah.
you're going to end up being like 35 minutes until the next group comes. So you're really not going to have time for games. So you're going to do some sort of tuning in, right? Have their
Mhm.
mindful moment, moving into some breath work. I like to use, we all have our breathing ball, right? Our Hoberman sphere. For
Yeah.
these large group assemblies, if you're going to start doing them, it's a good investment to get the really large Hoberman sphere. It just has a visual effect, The small ones are great for like smaller classes, but that big Hoberman sphere works really well. And then after we do the breath work, we'll go into some kind of warm up, whatever it is for you. If it's sun salutations or warriors or some like mountain stretches, whatever you do, and then a theme. So, you can do, the theme is totally up to you. For younger children, I kind of gear towards a more, a farm or a beach or a jungle. And then as the kids get a little older, a theme that maybe something like balance, right? Balance in our school life and versus like how much time we spend on the screen, right? So
Yeah.
giving them something to think about that's not as like, not like we're going to the farm, but maybe a theme like balance or compassion, something like that.
Yeah.
And then you do a few poses, and after that it's usually time to wrap up. So you want to include some sort of meditation or mindful activity and shavasana.
Right. Perfect. Ooh, so you actually do shavasana too with that large
Oh
group.
yeah. Oh yeah, 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 definitely do
Oh,
shavasana.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah, the kids love it. They
Yeah,
love it.
and
Even
they're not on mats or anything, right?
no, they're
No.
not. It's
So they're
too
just on
much.
the floor.
It's a good question. For if you're doing an assembly, you might have 200 kids
Yeah.
in the gym. You can't ask the school to invest in
No.
200 yoga
Right.
mats. It's just
Right.
too much, and you're not
Yeah.
going to bring 200 yoga mats with you. So it's
Right.
for these purposes, it's fine. And another, you bring up another good point. Don't ask them to take off their shoes. You're
Right.
working with so many children.
Yeah.
You're going to waste 10 to 15 minutes of like putting shoes on and off. So
Right.
yeah.
Right. It's just more like a taster, isn't it? Right? They come in, have an experience, and then you're hoping they're going to go away and have planted a seed in them, right? So,
Yes, and it's a
yeah.
great for instructors too to use it, if you're teaching yoga enrichment or, like you have a
Right.
book, like I'm always promoting my book when I go, so you can
Yeah.
promote your other offerings in the community.
Right. Awesome. So now I'm looking at you. You're like a ray of sunshine, right? I'm thinking Lauren, she's got a theater background, she's super enthusiastic, she's gorgeous, she's like all these things, right? So I think, oh my gosh, like
You're very sweet.
how could I go in there? Like I don't have that same theater background. So I'm thinking about,
That's okay though.
so I'm thinking about some people listening might be thinking, okay, well, that's good for Lauren. So tell us a story, maybe. There must have been a time in a school assembly or a large group where it didn't really go as planned, and maybe there might have been some behaviors, or maybe some children were laughing or giggling, or you
Yeah, I
know?
mean, that always, yes, I think we can all
And
attest,
how do you sort of handle yeah, how do you handle
most
those
kids yoga
situations?
never goes as planned. So again, I go back, um, again, I just want to stress that like my energy is my energy. And some people are like, she's too big, she's too much, you have to be you. You have to be authentic and who you are. Don't try and be anyone else. Like I know who I am and
Mm,
it's not for everyone. That's fine, right? You have to go in there and be you. I will say in a
mm,
school assembly, projection is important. And if you're not, that's why the microphone's important. If you're not someone that has that performance background and that's why you need the mic, right?
mm.
But yeah, I mean, sometimes kids are giggling. Sometimes, the last school assembly I did, we have all the grades, and sometimes there's, children with different abilities are in there. And there was a child that was kind of having a very loud experience. I don't know exactly what was going on. I kind of, I'm teaching and I'm glancing over, is everything okay? And I saw this child was with a teacher. Again, I go back, you can't really do much behavior management. You start in the beginning with either, show me your the principal usually introduces you and they'll do like
Right.
or you'll see what the school kind of what they do to get the kids in line and be like, okay, I'm going to do that if I need it. But the
Mm,
teachers are there to assist with those type of issues. So if there was something going on, I've had to say maybe to a teacher, hey, can you please talk to them, to kind of to the side. But I encourage you to be present with the kids that are engaging,
mm.
and the kids that aren't, get a teacher or a parent volunteer to handle that.
I love it. It's sort of like whack-a-mole, like help
A
out
little bit.
here, help out here. You're kind of delegating, you're holding the space. And, if people don't want to, if children don't want to participate, it's okay. As you say, you're working with a majority of children who do want to engage, right?
And for I
Mm,
will say for the most part, kids do want to engage. They're excited to not be in the classroom,
yeah,
so like
right.
they want
I
to
love
engage.
it.
They're getting, the principal is,
Mm,
or vice principal, we want to show our guest our best behavior. So you have a lot of adults. I find sometimes, and you might notice this too, Giselle, like if you're teaching an after school and there's no other teachers present, kids act a little different versus when you're pushing into the classroom and their teacher is present,
right.
they're usually a little more focused, more apt to behave. So in these large group assemblies, that's why it's so important for you, if you're booking them, make sure the teachers need to stay present. It's not you, and it can't be just you and
Mm,
200 kids.
right. Of
So
course. Yeah.
for a lot of those behavior issues, the teacher's watching the class. The teacher knows which kid is going to step out of line, which, they know their students.
And I love the way you talked about the connection, right? Even though there's 200 children, you still have this opportunity to lean in, and look in the eye contact and
Oh,
have the children feel seen and compliment them, praise them. There's still a lot of opportunity, even though it's a large crowd, right?
oh, for sure. Yes. Oh, I see you, focusing so well in your tree pose. Wow, look at those strong warriors to my right. It's what I mean by not a lot of one on one. Like, sometimes
Yeah.
you get that kid that's asking like 5 questions and you're like, okay, come
Mm.
after, ask me after. I always kind of linger. The kids are so cute. As they walk out, you see them,
Um,
they kind of look at you and they smile and they wave. The last one I did, the girl asked me where she could find me. She wanted to draw a picture of me and her doing
Oh,
yoga. The cutest little things.
amazing.
So yeah, there's definitely moments through eye contact, through just simple, wow, look at this group to my right, really, balancing and focusing in their, flamingo pose or whatever, something like that. You can definitely acknowledge,
Right.
what you see.
And do you ever hear back from the students or the teachers afterwards? It's something that you can book
Sometimes,
again, or is it just like a one-off
you
thing?
know, um, some of our schools have us come back. I got an email. I guess we had a bunch. I was doing a bunch of them like in the fall, like right before December, and then we have more lined up. So for those of you listening, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. A
Mm,
lot of schools are looking for activities, and yoga is a great activity to bring in during the month of May. So just in like a sales angle, that's a good pitch.
yes, right. That's
It's
great.
mental health awareness month. There's Children's Mental Health Week. So we have a lot more assemblies lined up in April and May. And yes, I've gone usually like the PTA person that brings me in, they'll write me, oh my God, that was amazing. We can't wait to have you back, or, just
Right.
such positive feedback. And
Mm,
usually you're often dealing with a PTA or like a parent that is in charge of booking the assemblies, and they're bringing you in.
Right. Yes. As an ex-PTA president, I totally would have brought you in if you lived nearby.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it would have
Yeah.
been
So
amazing.
you probably
Yes.
booked everything that was going
Yes.
into the school. Yeah.
Right. I love that. Oh, that's so great. So what advice do you have, Lauren, for folks out there who are kind of like on the fence? They want to try it, but they're just
Oh,
they're in
just
their
do
own
it.
way. Just
Just
do
do
it,
it.
right?
It's just
Yeah,
do it.
I
It's
love
like
it.
anything. It's like
Yes.
anything. You'll be, make sure you have the mic, right? And the sound system, because that's so key. Because what's really, what can feel disheartening is if you don't have that and then no one can hear you. And that's really hard to keep engagement because you're usually in a large space. So if your voice echoes and no one can hear you, it just feels like everything goes flat. So that's why it's so key having the correct, sound, the mic and music, and just do it. Don't, you've got to just take that leap, right? If large group assemblies are something you want to do, definitely just do it. Know that it's going to be a shorter amount of time. You're going to choose activities that are kind of like we all know, like the ones that are your go-to, right? The ones that always work. You're going to choose those. You're going to choose the fan favorites. You're most likely not going to have time for games. And if you do, they're going to be the type of games that everyone plays together. Maybe like a Yogi Says, right? Or something like that, or a walk, clap, jump, stop, or something. You're going to do something not where you need to take turns, but kind of a larger, something that everyone can participate in.
Right. I love it. Awesome. Oh, I love all of that, Lauren. Thank you
I
so
hope
much.
that was helpful.
Totally. Absolutely. So good. I just think that so many of us have this idea we want to do something, and there's just that we need that extra push. We need to hear from people that you have done it, you've had the experience for many years, and just like you said, you just got to do it, right? It's an opportunity there
Yeah.
that we can reach more children at one time. And also I think it really helps with the offering for a large group like that is it normalizes yoga and mindfulness also, right? So it's like I know in my daughter's school when she was young, she used to say like her friends used to make fun because she knew her mom was like the yoga mom. But when if they were to all do an assembly together, then it just becomes just something we all do. It's not something that this person, that person, that mom. I think it's
Yeah.
a huge
It's so funny you
opportunity.
say that. I am going to my daughter. I have a second grader. I'm going to her school in April, and we go all over New York City and Long Island, and I'm like, I've not been at her school, so I'm just volunteering I'm like, you don't have to pay me anything. I'm just volunteering as mom to go and lead like a day of yoga, and I'm so excited.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
to do that. It'll be
It's the
great.
best. Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
best because the way you see in your child as they're watching you, I used to do that with yoga story time. And yeah, watching the look in their face, they're so proud. They really are so proud. It's
Yeah,
really
no,
sweet.
I'm really excited. I told
Yeah.
her she can like be my little assistant,
Yeah,
when
yeah,
the
I
second
love
grade
it.
comes in. So it should be
Oh,
fun.
that's precious. So where can we find you online, Lauren? And do you have a copy of your book you can share?
Oh
Or
my
I'll definitely
goodness.
have a link.
Yes. Oh, I should have brought it down. Can I run and
Yes.
get it? I have
Yeah.
it right here. I'm
Yeah.
going to show it to you. Hold on, everybody.
Yes.
It's very close. Hold on. I
So
have a
you're
book.
yogibeans.com,
I'm
I think, right?
Yogi Beans, yogibeans.com. I'm rummaging through. Hold on. I'm getting my book right now.
And you're
yogibeans.com, and we're
yeah.
yogi_beans. I'm back. yogi_beans on Instagram. And
On
you know
Instagram.
what I'm
Okay.
going to do? I have a post, and I was waiting to share it about large group assemblies. So when you post this,
Perfect.
I'll post that. Here is my book, 108 awesome yoga poses for kids.
Oh,
What I love
lovely.
about the book, it's all photos. So right, like
Oh,
for those of us,
gorgeous.
yeah, we're usually not doing that pose, but yeah. So all
Yeah,
photos, really
I
easy. If
love
you're
it.
brand new to kids yoga, the kids love to flip through it. So you can find me there. Website, Instagram. We're on TikTok, but really Instagram is we have the biggest community there.
Awesome. Oh, I love it. Thank you so much. So what's next for you, Lauren? What projects have you
What
got
is
on the horizon?
next? What is next? I know there's always what projects. Well, we're working on some exciting stuff. Nothing is like more of like a Yogi Beans digital experience is something that we're working
Ooh.
on. We have some
Mhm.
exciting things coming up for Kids Yoga Day, which is coming up. I think it's like April 3rd or 4th or something
Yeah,
right around there.
something
Don't
like
know
that.
the
Yeah.
exact day, but something like that. So we'll have some cool deals. We have a on-demand training. So we'll have some special deals on that. And we also have all of our online trainings. Yeah, So, you know, maybe
Awesome.
another book in the
Right?
horizon.
Yeah.
We'll see. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Laura. I so appreciate your time. Looking forward to
Oh, thank you. Thank
spreading
you for having me.
your knowledge with our community. Thanks so much, Lauren. See you soon.
Thank you, Giselle.